Practice number 5 is invest in yourself. And now this means in 2 different areas. It means in your education, and it also means in your understanding, both of which equip you. They give you influence, and influence is all we need. So when it comes to investing in yourself, practices are things that we do and we engage in, and we've been talking about practices. And then perspective and the way that you see your life and see other things, those are 2 of the most dominant points of influence when it comes to all of the things that we have the ability to create in our lives. So practices and perspectives. Malcolm Gladwell wrote an incredibly fascinating book, well, a series of them, of course. And this incredibly fascinating book is called The Outliers. He is commonly referenced for his 10,000 hour rule about how to become an expert. What fascinated me, though, was to read the beginning part of that explanation. That it's just an interesting piece of education and information to know that it changed my perspective on so many things when it came to the world of sports. So Malcolm Gladwell talks about the hockey system and the way that the recruiting pool for getting accepted into the next level of play in hockey and how it all works. And in Canada and in many, many other countries, the way that they use to decide if a player is going to be in one group or another group consistently across the board is based on age. They use a calendar date as a cutoff. So January 1st, anybody born January 1st, 2014 and forward, or anybody born December 31st, 2013 and backwards, 2 completely different years of competition as you go through the process of growing up and playing hockey and competing to get into leagues. What's fascinating about this is that most people that I've spoken to after reading this had no idea. So when you take a look at the developmental level of a child who, when they first get involved in hockey, we're talking that they're probably somewhere between the age of, if we keep it really loose, say between the age of like 5 and 9. And maybe it's younger than that, and it's certainly not older than that in most cases. In that age group, between the ages of 5 and 9, does 1 year of growth and being alive make a difference in size? Does it make a difference in temperament? Does it make a difference in analytical ability, in emotional ability, in strength, in countless ways? One child who's born 10 months after another child, when they're 6 years old, they're completely different worlds of development. However, this is the way that we, have our systems set to be able to allow the pooling to be determined. So what occurs is that when these kids go out and they try to get accepted to their league, generally what happens is that the ones that are the most strong, that are the fastest players, that have physicality on their side, because they are older than the other kids, the majority of them are born in January, February, March, April, the first 4 months of the year. There's very rarely anybody who is in that group, and definitely it is an extremely small statistic in every single year all the way up, that comes in the last 6 months of the year that their birth date is. There are examples, of course, that are exceptions to the rule based upon talent, size, etc., of course. But the majority is the first 3-4 months of the year. They absolutely are the ones that control that roster. Then, after taking all the time that these kids now get to play, because they're in the league, all the practice, all of the insight, all the understanding, all the improvements they have the ability to engage in, when we come back to a year later and tryouts and it's open, and even all the kids that played in a different league at a different level or what have you, but they didn't play with the same number of hours, they didn't play at the same level of play, they just consistently get further distanced. And the biggest, strongest, most experienced continue to go through the advancement. When you take a look at the hockey roster and take a look at the percentages of the number of hockey players that are currently playing in the NHL that were born in the earlier part of the year versus the later part of the year, I'm pretty certain that the statistics will also shock you. Now, is that to say that kids that are born in the last 6 months of the year don't have a shot? Absolutely not. But understanding that, having a new perspective, gives you the opportunity to have influence and do something in order to give people different advantages. Right? The suggestion of this also being something that existed in schooling. How many of us in school that were born near the end of the year that were the smaller kids that had the birthdays after everybody else, that, you know, were developmentally a year behind anybody who was born in January? How many of us felt as though we were competing in a class of people that were older, smarter? And then for a lot of our schooling, that was true, which means that from a very young age, people who were born in the fall, they constantly feel, in the majority of cases, as though they're trying to catch up to the people who were born at the beginning of the year. That their grades are different, that their athletic ability is different. All of these things are factors. So again, not to petition the school system to change and, you know, make it be 4 different groups of students that are all, you know, in 3-month quarterly segments, and we all go through the same program, we just do it inside of a different environment. So I'm competing against kids that have, you know, within 2 months of me as opposed to 12 months of me. We would just see different self-esteem occur. We'd have leaders that had no chance of being leaders in a group of kids that were 6 months older than you when you were 7. Interesting. So I only say this for the fact that understanding and investing in yourself, understanding and investing in your education to give you more perspective, to have different practices be available to you, is an invaluable experience to go through. You know, there's another book that I've been reading by a gentleman by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I'm going to say that wrong, of course, and it's called Flow. And it's the concept of doing something that you love and how you gain energy from it when you're engaged in one of your signature strengths, which is what Dr. Marty Seligman calls it, Martin Seligman. When you're doing something that gives you that type of flow, it makes you feel fantastic. And so this makes me kind of pick a fight with a certain quote. There was a quote that is extremely famous, and, you know, I love the concept of it, but the quote is, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And while I believe that that's true, I feel as though there is a huge part of my life when I was feeling like I was failing at doing what I love and never working a day in my life because I was working. And so obviously I haven't been able to accomplish that yet. And, you know, everybody who hasn't is failing somehow. And so I don't think that the quote was said with that intention, and perhaps it's just me calculating it wrongly. But I have a different relationship with that quote. One of the things that we started to study was the number of people that are consistently changing jobs. Between the ages of 24 and 46 today, the average person has 11.3 job changes or career changes. A lot of that is due to automation. A lot of that is due to technological progress. Anything that can be automated and codified and uploaded, all of those are going to evaporate. We will not need a human to go through them. So this changing job, you know, landscape is going to continue. Nothing wrong with that. However, we still ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? As though they're supposed to have one answer. Instead of asking them, what would you like to be first? And then maybe what would you like to try after that? So that they set this expectation that they're going to do something for a while and then they'll do something different. And that they're not supposed to know at the age of 20 what they want to do for the rest of their lives, because that's expecting us to be the same person, you know, 20 years later that we were when we were 20, and that we would know what would be best for us when we were 40, when we were 20 years old, is ridiculous. So investing in education and gaining new perspective, it gives you the freedom to be less judgmental on yourself as well. Out in this book, Flow, it talks about signature strengths. And so all of these people that change jobs, one of the statistics that's the most unfortunate is that people change jobs because they reference the feeling of not being recognized and not feeling that they were properly rewarded. So they move and they move around. The challenge with that concept is simply this. To move jobs to go somewhere else, where somebody else is leaving for the exact same reason, isn't going to solve the issue. One of the challenges that we have when it comes to our career and understanding the different components that we use to make career decisions makes a massive influence over future decisions that we make. We're working in order to earn revenue. Do we have our signature strengths active in our lives? Are we doing the things that we also enjoy in our lives, yes or no? What happens to us is that for a majority of us, when we grow up, we go through school, we feel good, we're confident, we want to be bigger, this is the natural part of growing up. Then all of a sudden we do get a job, we do well, we get some recognition, oh my goodness, we're good at something, we're earning our own way, we can get an apartment, we can get a car maybe, we've got, a dog we can take care of, we've got stuff in our apartment, we've got dishes, we get towels, we get window coverings, things are good, things are progressing, and then all of a sudden the fuel of that experience stops, the newness stops. And work is work. So getting off of that adrenaline ride that life just naturally is dumps most of us off in our 20s somewhere a little bit going, how did I get here? And why am I not feeling the love from just the progress of my life anymore? What we then do is we blame that we made the wrong career choice. It must be the wrong career choice. And then we have to switch in order to try and find that injection of adrenaline again. And that's just not as productive way of going about it. For the most of us, we don't need to change jobs. It's not the job that's the issue. It's the fact that we don't have a signature strength in our life that we're actively participating in. We do not have flow available to us in other areas of our life. So we have an abusive relationship with our careers, and we take everything out on why we're not feeling loved at the workplace. So it's an overgeneralized view of it. However, investing in education and investing in understanding in order to get better perspective so that you can insert different practices in your life makes a world of difference. One of the challenges that we all face when we're trying to make a decision or figure out what to do is we spend time just thinking about it. And when we do that, it's just like staring into the refrigerator of your mind. It's like when you're hungry and you go to the refrigerator and you look in the refrigerator and there's nothing in there that's inspiring you. So you close the refrigerator and you leave, and then you come back and you do the same thing. And you leave and you come back and you do the same thing. And one of several options occurs. You either grab something that you kind of didn't want in order to eat, you don't eat so you stay hungry, or you go out and you go find something that you do feel like eating. Because we make decisions based on how we feel all the time, right? What would you like to eat tonight? I don't know. I'm not sure what I feel like. What do you want to do on Saturday? I don't know. I don't know if I feel like going out on Saturday. We gauge what we do by how we feel all the time. And so by trying to make a decision without getting new information and getting exposed to new ideas, it's like staring into the refrigerator of your mind. It's not in there. If it was, it would be jumping out at you, telling you exactly what you should do. And for anybody who's ever wondered what to do next and has been challenged by facing decisions and has sat down and typed into the Google bar, what do I do next? Or, help me. You have everything that you need. You have everything that you need. Perhaps a little bit more information, perhaps a little bit more understanding, perhaps a little bit of, removing old beliefs, perhaps a little bit of employing some new practices, but everything that you need to be the hugest performer in your own life, you've got it all. You've got everything you need. For most of us, it's really useful to have that reminder be given to us by other people who can see that it's true. You have everything that you need inside of you. Perhaps it's just some more information. Perhaps sometimes it's just some more encouragement. Perhaps it's a new perspective. Perhaps it's inserting a few new practices. It is our goal to give you what it is that you need so that you can show up every day. Life is meant to be an incredible, incredible adventure. And it's our goal that yours is one that's better than you've ever imagined.